The last photo Emily Hartley ever posted got 47 likes. Her friends saw a smiling young woman in a bedroom mirror. Not one of them saw the figure standing in the doorway behind her. The detective who reopened the case 3 years later saw nothing else. It was an ordinary photo. A girl, a phone, a mirror. But hidden in those pixels was the face of the person who would kill her that same night. And for 3 years it sat in plain sight on a public profile where anyone could have looked. Emily Hartley was 22, a college student, an only child, the kind of person who texted her mother goodnight every single night. On a cold Thursday in October, the goodnight text never came. Her mother called the next morning and then the morning after. By the third day, she drove 2 hours to Emily's apartment, let herself in with a spare key, and found a home that looked as though its owner had simply stepped out and forgotten to come back. Her keys were gone. Her phone was gone. But her car sat in the lot. Her coat hung by the door, and her purse was still on the kitchen counter. Wherever Emily had gone that night, she had left almost everything behind. The police opened a missing persons case. They canvassed the building, interviewed her friends, and traced her final movements. The last confirmed sighting was Emily walking home alone from the campus library, a little after 9 at night. Her phone had gone dark at 11:40 that same evening, somewhere near her apartment, and never connected again. The investigation pushed hard for 2 weeks. Then the leads ran out, the headlines moved on, and Emily Hartley's case went quietly cold. 3 years passed. The file was boxed and shelved until a new detective named Olivia Park was assigned to review the department's unsolved cases. She was young, methodical, and she had grown up in a world where every life left a digital trail. Park did not start with the witness statements or the timelines. She started where Emily had actually lived her final days, online. She pulled up Emily's social media, still public, still frozen on the night she vanished, and she scrolled to the very last post. It was a selfie. Emily, smiling, holding her phone up to her bedroom mirror, time-stamped 11:02 p.m. on the night she disappeared, 38 minutes before her phone went dark forever. Park had seen 100 photos like it, but something made her stop. In the reflection, over Emily's shoulder, the bedroom doorway was open onto a dark hall. And in that darkness, almost lost in the grain of a phone camera at night, there was a shape. A shape that, the longer Park looked, became the outline of a man. She sent the image to the department's digital forensics unit and asked one question: "Is there a person in this doorway?" The answer came back 2 days later, and it changed everything. Yes, and the original file held far more detail than the compressed version online. Working from Emily's recovered cloud backup, the technicians enhanced the original photograph. Layer by layer, the shadow in the doorway resolved, a man standing perfectly still, watching her take the picture. He was already inside the apartment. The face was partial, half swallowed by shadow, but it was a face. And Detective Park was now certain of something the original investigation had never even suspected. Emily had not been taken on the street. She had been photographed, by accident, standing a few feet from the man who killed her. The question now was who? Park went back through every interview from the original case, this time asking not who Emily knew, but who had a key, who had been inside that apartment, who could have been standing in that hallway at 11 at night. The list was short: a landlord, an ex-boyfriend, and a neighbor from across the hall, a quiet man named Daniel Reyes who, the original detectives had noted, was extremely helpful during the search, and who had volunteered, more than once, theories about what might have happened to her. The landlord and the ex-boyfriend had alibis that held. But when Park pulled the file on the helpful neighbor, she found something the first investigation had filed away as a coincidence. Daniel Reyes had moved out of the building 11 days after Emily vanished. Park drove to his new address. She did not accuse him. She simply showed him a printout of Emily's last photo and watched his face. He said he had never seen it before, but his eyes went, immediately and instinctively to the dark doorway in the reflection. It was not proof. A flicker of the eyes never is. But it was enough to keep going. Park requested a warrant for the enhanced image to be compared point by point against Reyes, and for the cell tower data from the night Emily disappeared. The forensic image analysts went to work on the partial face, the distance between the eyes, the line of the jaw, the shape of the hairline, barely visible at the edge of the shadow. Slowly, a probability took shape, and the probability had a name. Meanwhile, the cell records told their own story. On the night Emily vanished, Daniel Reyes had told the original police he was home alone, asleep. But his phone had connected to a tower 9 miles away, near a stretch of woods off the county highway at 3 in the morning. Park drove out to that stretch of woods herself, with a small team and a cadaver dog, on a gray morning with the first frost on the ground. For 2 days, they found nothing. On the third, near an old logging road, the dog stopped and sat. What they recovered there, after 3 years, finally gave Emily Hartley's family the answer they had stopped letting themselves hope for. It was her. She had been there, a few hundred yards from a road, the entire time the world had been looking everywhere else. With the recovery, the case became a homicide, and the quiet, helpful neighbor became the only suspect. Park brought Daniel Reyes into the interview room and laid out, piece by piece, everything the photograph had set in motion. The image in the doorway, enhanced and measured. The cell tower 9 miles from his bed. The 11 days until he moved away. And the simple damning fact that to be standing in that hallway at 11 at night, he had to have already let himself into her apartment. Reyes held to his story for hours. He was a good neighbor. He had only ever tried to help. But the photograph did not change its story no matter how many times he was asked. And eventually, in a flat and exhausted voice, the helpful neighbor stopped talking and asked for a lawyer. He never confessed. He did not need to. The case Detective Park built did not depend on a confession. It rested on a single photograph that a young woman had taken of herself, never knowing that the most important thing in the frame was the shadow behind her. At trial, the prosecution put that photo on a screen in front of the jury. They showed them the smiling girl, and then they showed them the doorway, enhanced, undeniable, and the man the analysis placed within it. The jury did not take long. Daniel Reyes was convicted of the murder of Emily Hartley and sentenced to life in prison. The neighbor who had helped search for her, who had offered theories and comfort to her grieving mother, had been the last person she ever saw. Detective Olivia Park was asked afterward how a case cold for 3 years had finally broken. She said it had not been new evidence. Everything she needed had been public the entire time. It had simply been waiting for someone to look at the right photograph closely enough. Emily Hartley was laid to rest beside the grandparents she had been named for. Her mother kept her phone exactly as it was, charged, the screen still showing the last photo her daughter ever took, the smile, and, just visible behind it, the shadow. We take more photographs now than any people who have ever lived, billions of them every single day. We post them without a second thought, certain we know exactly what is in the frame. We almost never look at the edges, at the background, at the doorways. Emily's last photo was seen by hundreds of people. Her friends, her family, the original detectives. They all looked at the smiling girl in the center, exactly where she wanted their eyes to go. For 3 years, not one of them looked at the dark. It took a stranger, a detective who had never met her, to look past the smile and into the shadow, and to finally see the man who had been standing there all along, watching, waiting, captured forever by accident in the last photo Emily Hartley ever took.